All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Resilient Voices, the podcast where we explore stories and resilience and learn from those who have overcome challenges. I'm your host, Hayat, and today we have a very interesting topic to share and discuss unveiling the Smong stories, how indigenous knowledge saved lives on Simeulue Island. And for this special topic, we have a very special guest, Dr. Alfi Rahman, an expert in disaster risk reduction and indigenous knowledge from Tsunami Disaster Mitigation and Resilience Center, University of Syiah Kuala, Banda Aceh, Indonesia. And this special episode is sponsored by Royal Academy of Engineering through its Frontier Champions program. Assalamualaikum, Alfi.
Walaikum salam, Hayat. Thank you for having me on the show. And I'm very excited to be here and share my insight on the remarkable of this Smong story. And also, as you mentioned, its role in saving lives during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami.
Of course. It's our pleasure to have you here, Alfi. And your expertise in this area really makes you the perfect person to shed some light on the significance of these Smong stories. And before we dive into that, could you tell our listeners a bit about your background and your involvement in the topic that we're going to discuss today?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Hayat. I have been working in the field of disaster risk reductions for over a decade, and my focus on indigenous knowledge and its integration into disaster management practices in the context, especially in Indonesia. And I also conducted extensive research on the Smong story and its impact on the Simeulue Islands community, and also how to bring this message not only in the Simeulue Islands, but also it's a kind of the inspiration for Acehese people and also for Indonesia. And my aims is to highlight the importance of indigenous knowledge in building resilience and also fostering sustainable disaster preparedness. So I think that's all, sort of information about my background.
Great, thank you. That's incredibly important work, Alfi. And okay, going back to the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, it was really a devastating event that affected many countries along the coastline, not just Indonesia. And can you give us a general overview of the mechanisms or how tsunami take place and the impact it had on the society, the infrastructure, and also probably the economy of these affected regions at that time?
Yeah, absolutely, Hayat. A tsunami is a series of large ocean waves triggered by underwater disturbance, most commonly earthquake. In the case of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, it was caused by a massive undersea earthquake of the coast of Sumatra. And the tsunami waves affect not only Aceh, but also 18 countries in Southeast Asia and also Southern Africa, for example, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, and some of Maldives Islands. And the impact of the tsunami waves was catastrophic. It resulted in the loss of at least 250,000 lives, leaving over 5.7 million people homeless, and caused extensive damage to coastal communities. As the information that we can access from many articles, the impact of the tsunami also caused the massive damage in infrastructure, such as buildings and also roads and bridges were destroyed, and also the economy of the affected region was severely disrupted. One of the most important things, the community who are living in the coastal area particularly suffered significant losses. For example, some services also lost their boats and equipment, and also it impacted their livelihoods. So I think the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami is one of the massive catastrophic disaster that had happened in this century.
Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah, and it's really had affected a lot of people in many aspects. Yeah.
Mhm.
However, one interesting facts that we got from the 2004 tsunami event, that among this tragedy, the Simeulue Island community appeared to stood out for its remarkably low number of casualties. I think it's only about was it 7 people died in the island?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, some tell 5 until 7 people were dead. Yeah.
Yes, can you tell us how this could happen? Whilst many other places, many more people died in that time.
Yeah, absolutely, Hayat. So the Smong story is an indigenous knowledge system deeply rooted in the culture of the Simeulue people. So before that, I would like to tell about our audience. Where is the Simeulue Islands? So the Simeulue Islands located approximately 105 miles north of Malabo. Malabo is the capital city of West Aceh district. This island is a part of a group of islands consisting of over 147 large and small islands. And the largest islands, also called Simeulue, is home to more than 90% of the populations. So totally around 88,000 people who were living there before the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So this is one part of the Aceh province district, and the island as well. Yeah, the islands are approximately 97.5 kilometers in length and 15 kilometers in wide, featuring a combination of mountains area, of flatland and small hills located near the shore. And now I would also want to tell about the diverse of the Simeulue Islands culture, because the people of Simeulue Islands have diverse origins with ancestral ties to various parts in Indonesia. Yeah, for example, because the closest area from the Simeulue is Sumatra, so most of the Simeulue Islands people origin from the Sumatra, but also some of them origins come from Nias, Minangkabau, Tapanuli, Bugis, and Sulawesi, and also some from Java Islands. So this is mean that how we try to understand about the Simeulue Islands, because the diverse of culture also influence the Simeulue Islands so much. So this is the unique culture of the past century. But again, the majority of the populations of the Simeulue Islands, since they also belongs to Aceh province, they follow the Islamic faith, which significantly influence the way of life. And the island's population is distributed with the Timur sub-district, or we call it Kecamatan, where Sinabang is the capital city of these islands. So I think, again, we can go to the information about the Smong. So the Smong story serves as an early warning system and provide guidance on how to respond to the tsunami. When we want to recount about their experience to the Smong story, actually the Smong story recounts from the experience in the past tsunamis, particularly the 1907 tsunami that devastated Simeulue Islands, resulting in the loss of nearly, at the time, 50% of the populations. So which means that 1907 tsunami is one of the set history in the Simeulue Island history. And then the Smong story was revitalized after 1907 tsunami as a way for the community to cope with the tragedy and ensure their survival if there are any probability of disaster such as tsunami in the future time. So, and then they decided to transmit this story, by using the traditional channel, for example, storytelling, storytelling itself, they call it as nafi-nafi, which are passed down from one generation to another generations. So the nafi-nafi story content is not only about the 1907 tsunami, but also everything happened in the past and have some of significance message should be delivered to the generations. They also deliver it in the nafi-nafi. And one of the content of nafi-nafi tells about the 1907 tsunami. And again, during the 2004 tsunami, the Simeulue people tried to practice on the knowledge that embedded in the Smong story. They recognized the warning sign, big earthquake, and then receding seawater. Immediately, they decided to run from the coastal area. As result, only a handful of lives, as you mentioned, 7 or some 1,005 people killed at the time from 80,000 population of Simeulue Islands at the time. Yeah,
that's very interesting. So these so they had experienced a tsunami as well in 1907. So it's nearly 100 years from 2004.
Yeah.
That's very, very great. So you mentioned this Smong and nafi-nafi as well. Can you tell us a bit more what is actually Smong and how it works, how it protected the Simeulue Island people at that time?
Yeah, certainly. Smong is not just a simple story. It is a comprehensive knowledge system that encompasses various aspects of the tsunami preparedness. It provided the community with valuable information on recognizing the warning signs of an impending tsunami. Yeah, for example, the changes of seawater levels. And also this knowledge is crucial because it gives the community precise lead times to evacuate to higher grounds. Yeah, this is, and then the Smong story also emphasize the importance of collective actions. It instructs community members to spread the warning, ensuring that everyone is informed and able to take with actions by relying on their cultural heritage and the Smong story. The Simeulue people have developed a strong sense of the community resilience and responsibility towards one another. So this is one of the very good examples, and also these are also the reasons why. And then several months after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the UNISDR, United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction, awarded the Simeulue Islands Community Sasakawa Award as one of the recognitions of their own knowledge in saving life from the tsunami, and it inspired many people, not only in Aceh or Indonesia, but also around the world.
That's very, very, very interesting experience and case there. Yes, and I read in one of your articles you mentions about the transmissions and the preservations of the Smong story through nafi-nafi and Nandong, which is very, very fascinating. However, it seems that the Simeuluan people, that's how you call them, have different perspective on these traditional channels, if you like. Can you explain also a bit more about what is nafi-nafi and Nandong and their significance in preserving and transmitting this Smong story? How did it work?
Yeah, nafi-nafi, as I already mentioned, is a traditional storytelling method among the Simeulue people. Yeah, it is used to convey important events or stories from the past, and one of the content of the nafi-nafi, including the Smong story. So the nafi-nafi sessions are not held at specific times or in the specific context. They can be shared whatever the community gathers. For example, after reciting the Quran or doing other communal activities, they also take the opportunity to to tell the Nafi Nafi, and one of the content of the Nafi Nafi, of course, the 1907 tsunami. So at the end of Nafi Nafi session, the story should provide insights or lesson learned that can be reflected upon when facing similar situation. What should we do when we face a similar situation? So it serves as a way to pass down knowledge and wisdom for one generation to the next. And yeah, on the other hand, Nandong is another cultural practice used to transmit the Smong story. It involves reciting the story through songs or poems accompanied by traditional instruments like in Indonesia we call it gendang or violins. Nandong is typically performed during various social occasions. For example, in leisure times, in weddings, and harvest festivals, or fishing gathering. So it serves as means of entertainment and cultural expressions while also conveying important messages. But again, the Nandong is not the main traditional channel that used by the Simeulue Islands community in transmitting of the Smong story before the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. But again, after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, some of the local leaders initiates to extract the content of the Smong story in Nafi Nafi to be transformed into the Nando lyric in helping that there are many channels to spread the Smong story message.
Yes, that's very interesting. So the Smong story itself originally is from Nafi Nafi medium or channels, and now they decided they also want to adopt it or use it in Nandong.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much, Alfi, and we will continue our discussions, our talk after this break. All right, welcome back to our podcast where we will continue our conversations with Alfi about the incredible Smong story and its transmission through Nafi Nafi and also other cultural channels, if you like. And Alfi, you mentioned that Smong story is an important part of the Nafi Nafi traditions. Could you share with us an example of Smong story as told in Nafi Nafi?
Yeah, of course I have. Let me share with you a glimpse of the Smong story as passed down through the generations. Actually, this is one of the example that I interviewed with some of the informants I met during our research field in Simeulue Islands. One of the example of the Nafi Nafi tells about the Smong story as follows. On a Friday morning, when most of the people were gathering ready to go to the malls on the market, suddenly a powerful earthquake shook the land, and the ground trembled so intensely that people could not stand upright. Amidst the chaos, they noticed something unusual, and they tried to observe the level of seawater, and they found the seawater began receding from the shore, and fish were floundering on the beach. Sadly, many villages rushed to the beach, driven by the opportunity to collect the fishes, the floundered fishes on the beach. But then disaster struck. A colossal wave surged from the sea, crashing onto the land. In the midst of the chaos, the older generation raised their voices repeatedly, shouting, "Smong, Smong, Smong, Smong." However, the warning came too late for many. Time were scarce, and numerous individuals, people didn't have the chance to make it to the higher grounds. So this is one of example yeah, the content of Nafi Nafi tells about 1907 tsunami. So which means that it's tell about what actually happened in 1907. Actually, the 1907 big earthquake and the tsunami occurred on Friday. So which means that Friday morning, yeah. So which means that some of the people already gathered in the mosque. Once the Smong had subsided and the danger had passed, the survivors returned to their village. What they discovered was uh, heartbreaking. Many lives were lost and entire villages were devastated. More than half of the population in each village had perished. The water level of the Smong was estimated to be around 10 until 15 meters high. It claimed that lives of not just people, but also they found buffaloes and chickens uh, uh, was also stranded on the tree. So some unfortunate souls found themselves stranded atop of tree, while others sought refuge at the hills, yeah, which reached a height 10 until 15 meters. So what I want to tell here, this monk story in Nafi Nafi tells important instructions for future generations. Yeah, because they experienced 1907 tsunami. So when a significant earthquake occurs, it is vital to pay close attention to the changings of water levels, yeah, at the beach or at the river. And if you observe the water receding, it is crucial to act swiftly and fish to higher grounds. And also, in this small story in the Nafi Nafi, also tells about remember to bring essential supplies, for example, rice, sugar, alive, light, knife, matches, and clothes. So, which means that also because based on the experience from the past, they will stay in the temporal places to make sure or before they decided to return again to the village. So this story serves as a reminder to pass down this knowledge to the future generation and answering their preparedness and resilience. So that's, I think, all of the a glimpse of the content of the small story in Nafi Nafi.
Very interesting stories there, Alfie. And thank you very much for sharing that powerful example of how Smong story has been embedded into this Nafi Nafi channel, if you like. And it really is demonstrating the importance of this narrative and as a guide of survival and preparedness for those living in that area and who knows about that story through Nafi Nafi. And the Smong story also served as a somber reminder of the devastating consequences of the tsunami that took place previously in that particular area. And it also motivating us to be more vigilant, if you like, and ready to protect ourselves and our community in the face of such disaster. All right, we will take a quick break. And don't go anywhere, everyone, as we continue our conversation with Alfie about the incredible Smong story and its significance to the Simeulue community. Be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to our podcast where we are exploring the remarkable Smong story and its transmission through traditional storytelling methods. And we are here with Alfie, who has been sharing valuable insight with us. And Alfie, before we move forward, I want to. It's a very interesting fact that I've picked up from the story that you told us itself that in 1907, in the Nafi Nafi of Smong story itself, when they saw this seawater subsided, they called Smong. So the Smong words is already there, and they know what Smong worse, at least for some of them. Could you tell us a bit more? Were there any previous tsunami took place before 1907 in this particular area as well?
Yeah, actually, there are some of tsunamis already occur in the small islands at the times, but unfortunately, the 1907 tsunami, the Smong message did not work well at the community. So yeah, based on my experience when I tried to interview the locals community in the Simeulue Islands, unfortunately, I did not find any informants who experienced the 1907 tsunami, which meant that I interviewed the persons who get the information of 1907 tsunami from the person who experienced 1907 tsunami. So, which meant that this is kind of the second generation of this Smong story. So, as you mentioned, that the Smong, the word Smong already recognized before 1907, but again, probably before the 1907 tsunami, that's also the where some of the tsunamis struck these areas. But again, unfortunately, it's not. Yeah, what already happened in the past did not transmit it well in saving life when the 1907 tsunami occurred. So this is why, and then we need to emphasize the importance of preserving and passing on the Smong story to the future generations. Yeah, again, in 1907 tsunami, this is a sad history in the Simeulue Islands, and the way for the local community try to deal with the sadness, yeah, because 50% of the populations at the times, they killed in 1907 tsunami, so they need to deal with the losses, and they decided to keep the small story because they believe it will be occur again in the future, and then they put it in the Nafi. So
it very interesting. So they really is learning or learn from the previous experience, and this demonstrate how resilient they have become now from 1907 to 2004 at least, and then we hope that this will continue to the future generation as well. Okay, so can you share a bit more? What else? The significance of the Smong story, in addition to what you have brilliantly explained, Alfi.
Yeah. One key lessons from the key lessons from the Smong story is the need to observe of the changing water levels at the beach or the river during and after an earthquakes. Yeah, if you witness the water receding, it is a clear indication of an incoming tsunami. So the immediate action should be to evacuate to higher grounds or without hesitations. So this is one of the lessons what we get from the Smong story in Nafi Nafi. And then the Smong story reminds us of the importance of being prepared. Yeah. For example, in the Smong story, at the end of the Smong story, there's some of the message that we need to have a kind of the emergency kits. For example, rice, sugar. But actually, this is not like what we define as emergency equipment. But something that we can reach easily. Yeah, because they believe that we'll stay in the temporal places after that incident. And also by passing down this story to the future generations, we empower them with knowledge and awareness, and they can learn from the experience of our ancestors and be better equipped to protect themselves and their communities in the face of disaster. Yeah.
That's very great, Alfie. So yes, it's very interesting to see how these Hmong stories have been communicated through different traditional channels throughout various or progressing generations of the Simeulue community. Uh, but however, what do you see the challenges coming forward? Yes, they have preserved this information or knowledge through Nafi Nafi from 1907 to 2004. But moving forward, how do you see forward? Do you think this will be continually or being continued to be preserved in the community in the future in this digital technology period, if you like?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the significant challenge is the declining interest among young people in utilizing traditional channels like Nandong to transmit Smong story. So we're also aware that the globalization and cultures changes have influenced the preference and engagement of the younger generations, and this shift in cultural dynamic poses a threat to the continuity and preservation of indigenous knowledge and practices. And to address this challenge, there have been attempts to transform the Smong story into other traditional channels, incorporating with the disaster reductions messages. These adaptations aims to make the story more relevant and captivating to the younger audience. Yeah, however, these initiatives have been carried out by only individuals or a small group, lacking with widespread and systematic approach. So the transformation of this monster into a different channel, yeah, for example, in Nandong that already we discussed, can be seen as a way, yeah, to strengthen the community's resilience against disaster. The lyric in Nafi Nafi and Nandong mentions, "Smong is your bat, earthquake is your swing bat, thunderstorm is your music, and thunderlight is your alarms." So this is very interesting because the lyric convey the message of tuning something, flattening into something that can be embraced and played with. This creative adaptation serves as a reminder to the community to remain resilient and find strength in the face of adversity. So I think that's really powerful. So I think this one of very good practical examples that we can adapt with another channels for to answer the challenge that probably poses our young generations.
That's very interesting. So the lyric from the Nandong says, "Smong is your bath, earthquake is your swing bed, thunderstorm is your music, thunderlight is your lamp." So they make this say hazard or disaster event rather more friendly on nature itself, isn't it? It's not like a scary thing. It's just that we have to adapt to this hazardous event, if you like. That's very interesting story that you have shared, Alfie. So the Smong story seems to not only provide practical guidance, but it also fosters a sense of unity within the community to come together, to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clear that the story is deeply embedded in the cultural fabric of the community of the Simeulue Island.
Yeah.
So if you can share us a bit more, is there any
absolutely.
specific lessons that we can learn from the Smong story, taking into account what we have discussed so far, Alfie?
Yeah, absolutely, Hayat. So the Smong story offers several valuable lessons that extends beyond the Simeulue Islands community. Firstly, it highlights the importance of indigenous knowledge in disaster risk reductions, and traditional channel system hold a wealth of information that can greatly contribute to resilience building efforts. It is essential to recognize, respect, and integrate this knowledge into contemporary disaster management strategies. And secondly, this Smong story emphasizes the significance of the community engagement and empowerment, the active involvement of the community members in the preservation and transmission of their cultural heritage ensures the continuity and the effectiveness of the knowledge system, and also building strong community networks and fostering a sense of ownership of disaster preparedness initiative can save lives and enhance resilience in the face of the future disaster. And lastly, the Smong story teaches us the power of storytelling as a means of the communications and educations through navigation and other traditional channels. The Smong story has been passed down from generation to generation, instilling a deep understanding of the risk posed by the tsunamis. So this demonstrates the potential of the storytelling and cultural practices in disseminating vital information and fostering disaster awareness among communities worldwide.
Those are indeed a very valuable lesson, Alfi. Yeah, what we have discussed here, it really shows that the Smong story serve as a very powerful example of how indigenous knowledge and cultural practice can serve and contribute to achieving disaster resilience in a particular or any community. And it's also crucial for us to recognize and appreciate this knowledge system to build a more resilient future, to build a more resilient future generations, if you like. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights into this particular topic with us today, Alfi.
Yeah, thank you, Hayat. Yeah, it has been a pleasure discussing this Smong story and its significance with you. Then I hope that our conversation inspires listeners to recognize the importance of indigenous knowledge and encourage further exploration of resilience building practices. Together, we can create a more resilient and prepared world. Thank you.
Absolutely, Alfie. So let's work towards a future where the wisdom of indigenous community is acknowledged and integrated into our disaster risk reduction efforts. And thank you to our listeners for turning into Resilient Voices for our first and very special episode today. And stay tuned for our next episode where we will continue exploring stories of resilience from around the world. Thank you again, Alfie. Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, everyone.